Hey everybody, John Manuel and Jim Shonerd here with you on Baseball America Google Hangout. We got the nice BA logo hanging out here as well with us, so uh, hope that clears up. But Jim, if it doesn't, we'll keep it short. But always fun to talk college baseball, Jim, on a beautiful weekend as we've got here, Easter weekend for a lot of you non-Orthodox Christians. Those of you who are, I guess, quote unquote, regular Christians. The Greek Orthodox Church would not be here till next week, Jim. So I don't know what all the hubbub's about this weekend, but people moving
They
serious.
just moved all these series for no reason. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. My brother likes to call it pagan Easter, which is quite the oxymoron. But it's just non-Orthodox Easter. I'm not sure that there's a good reason for the calendar to be different for us Orthodox Christians, but it is what it is. Anyway, there were games played last night, Jim. So our weekend preview got up got up a little bit early. You went to the only ACC game that was played Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to review some of last night's games and preview the rest of the weekend and talk a little bit this week about the mid-season statistical trends that were released by the NCAA, because I think those are pretty significant as well. But Jim, last night there were a few big highlights around college baseball. Obviously you went to the NC State Florida State game, which I'll be working that on Saturday, hoping to go to the game tonight, weather permitting here in the Carolinas. But that was one of the big games. I guess LSU winning at Alabama in 16 kind of wacky innings was another one. And then the Pac-12, a lot of road wins in the Pac-12 last night. Just touch briefly, if you would, on the Seminoles. How seriously is Busby, their third baseman, hurt? I know he left the game early last night. And what was your take on seeing the Seminoles in person for the first time this year, where NC State really played well and pitched very well, but obviously stranded some runners, and Florida State able to eke out a opening night road victory last night?
Yeah, I would say that opportunistic is the word for the Seminoles. I mean, Corey Wilder pitched really good for NC State. He was 93, 95, threw a few nice changeups in there. He did saw some back foot sliders, which was kind of, for me, was always Carlos Rodon's trademark pitch. But even obviously Rodon's a lefty, Wilder a righty, but still, so he was really impressive. And I think my takeaway from the Wolfpack side was that at least when on nights Wilder's pitching like that, they can beat just about anybody. But they do have to find a way to get some of those clutch hits. That's just kind of what hurt them last night. But for FSU, so they were opportunistic. Boomer Bigalski, was good enough. He made big pitches when he had to. He did not get much help. Their defense was a problem. Five errors, and it was kind of, especially a couple by their outfielders even. Even those guys were kicking the ball around. It was not the best look for them, but I mean they were patient as ever. They were opportunistic when the few chances they got, they made them count, and so they were able to gut out a win on the road. And when they don't ask how, just how many, especially at conference road games, you'll take them any way you can get them.
And speaking of conference road games, just looking at the Pac-12, Jim, go to Pac-12, Pacific 12 conference website, and you've got every road team winning last night, and some of those were favorites, like Southern Cal at Arizona, Southern Cal, the favorite there. Washington on the road at Stanford, Arizona State on the road at Utah. But Oregon State and Washington State, maybe Wazoo winning one for Bobo Brayton last night. Bobo Brayton, for those who don't know, was the coach at Wazoo in their glory years, took him to Omaha twice. Coach John Olerud. I think that's about as good as it gets if you're a Washington State fan, that he coached John Olerud. That was the glory days, really the glory days for the Washington State program. But Jim, Wazoo goes out and gets that win last night, and I guess we're all kind of waiting with Cal, like just how good. I like Cal. I'm all in on Cal, but and I texted with their pitching coach Mike New this week. Mike New says Dalton Jeffries is going to pitch this week. Not necessarily said that he was going to start this weekend, but right now they've been doing okay, even though their ace pitcher has been out for the last couple of days. But big win for Wazoo last night, and then Oregon State, I guess, is the other big win that was on the road last night in the Pac-12.
Exactly. I will say this for Wazoo. I mean, they were very competitive in their series with USC last week. I think they won one game in that series, or actually no, they were playing UCLA last week. That's right. There were a couple of close games in that series. It was UW that was playing USC, but my bad on that one. But I mean, for Cal, I mean they've got a little opportunity here to go on a run. I mean their upcoming schedule, they just kind of got through a tough stretch where they swept swept, or not swept, but they beat Oregon a couple weeks ago. Then they sweep Washington on the road a couple, after that, and then they win at Utah. So this week they've got Wazoo and then Stanford after that. So I mean this is kind of a little chance for they're already 7-3 in the conference. We're 7-2, but so this is a chance for them to kind of set the pace a little bit, try to catch UCLA at the top of the league. And I mean we've as we talk about on our little video with the Field of 64, we've been told that Cal could host this year. They have the lights at Evans Diamond now, so and this is if they want to kind of finish top 2 or 3 in the Pac-12, this is kind of a chance for them to get on a little run before the schedule toughens up the last few weeks.
Yeah, if you want to host a regional, you can't lose a home series to Washington State. So the pressure's on. Washington State has been scrappy, like you said, but they've also, they had lost 8.
They lost home series you can't lose.
That's right. They lost 8 of their first 9 in Pac-12 play, and that's one that if you got to win. And then Southern Cal, I'm just very impressed, Jim, by how steady Southern Cal is. They win a lot of the games that they're supposed to win, and they've obviously specifically in the Dodgerstown series, they won some of the games they weren't supposed to win. But it's a very steady lineup. Is that a little unconventional? They got the Abercrombie and Fitch model, Bobby Stale at the top of the lineup, then Stubbs and Martinez, Flores in the 5-hole, and this very steady senior for them. It's been a pretty consistent club this year, and it's just the most impressive part to me is with the lineup that Arizona has. We've got Kingery, Newman, Moore, and Dahlbeck at the top. Those 4 guys are all experienced, very good college hitters. It's a top-heavy lineup, but they don't get held to one run very often.
Yeah, it's a legit top lineup, top of the half of the lineup anyway.
The top half of the lineup is a regional lineup. So Brent Wheatley certainly did not do it classically last night. He had 3 wild pitches and 8 walks. I suppose that's the definition of effectively wild, and 11 left on base last night for the Wildcats. So that's a little bit of a problem for Arizona. And then in the SEC last night, like we talked about, Jim, I guess the big news really was, 2 pieces of news really. There were 2 games that got in, but LSU going on the road and in a wild game, winning at Alabama, and then South Carolina, the Gamecocks. We kind of sounded the alarm on them last weekend, losing at home to Georgia. 2 out of 3, but boy, just Will Crow, one of the few guys they've been able to count on this year has been Will Crow, their ace number 1 starter, the sophomore out of Tennessee, and he gets pounded last night. And in a series of desperation, Mississippi State opens up with the victory in convincing fashion.
Exactly, the Gamecocks made 3 errors in that game as well. I mean, it is desperation times for both those teams certainly, but I mean for South Carolina, I mean they were still. If they want to host a regional and all that like they're used to, I mean, they haven't gone on the road for regionals in a long time. But I mean, now they're down to 5-5 in the SEC, and this is, I mean, now they've got to. So now they get Jack Winecoop on the mound today, who's going to be back in the rotation. They relieved him last week, but he's a veteran guy they trust a lot, so they need a big effort out of him to try to get back in this series. And I mean, but obviously they didn't hit last night either. So I mean, they've got a lot of work to do. And for LSU, I will say that their bullpen was such a problem last night or not last week against Kentucky, I should say. But I mean, they actually, even though they did give up a late lead again, but overall, I mean, they was, I would say being able to pull out a 16-inning game. I mean, that's certainly a positive.
And no doubt, especially on the road, Jim. I think I'm having a little trouble here with the controls and who sees who. So. Hope people bear with us a little bit. But one part of our weekend preview, Jim, was we looked a little bit deeper with the hashtag inevitable at offense this year, and obviously the difference in the balls with the raised seams going to the flat seams this year. And we tried to put a little bit in context of just how much offense had fallen in college baseball, comparing it to past eras, and then marking it up with last year and just how the offense has changed. You've gone to a lot of games this year, more than I have, certainly. It does seem, though, like when you go to games that it makes sense. The anecdotal evidence is that there's more scoring and you see more home runs. Jake Armstrong with a home run last night in the game you went to. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you do see more aggressive approaches and therefore more strikeouts. Hitters are more aggressive this year than they have been in the past, and that really does show in the strikeout numbers, which would be the highest strikeouts per 9 innings for batters in the history of college baseball, going back to 1970, the first year the NCAA has full remarks for. The strikeout rate being up so significantly is really what jumped to me, Jim. You'd have scoring being up, but you'd have so scoring would be, home runs would be up, but they're still at half the level they were in 1998 and 99, and this is the highest strikeout rate you'd have ever. 1999 was the last time you were over 7 strikeouts per 9. What stood out to you in the statistics, the midseason trends report?
Well, I will say that for the home runs, I mean, it is good that they're back up. I mean, they're essentially back to where they were in 2011 when BB Core started. So it's not. I would say. I mean, certainly it's positive. It's not. Wouldn't say it's like revolutionary, but I mean, yeah, certainly the strikeouts being up, and one of the things that when I talked to Patrick Hallmark from Rice, just kind of, and some of the other guys I've talked to just about the balls, just. It does feel like even more than just home runs. You do see more doubles and triples because balls are carrying more. That they're getting down in the gap or they're getting over an outfielder's head that they didn't used to. So I feel like that's kind of creating a lot more extra bases, a lot more scoring chances. And I mean the strikeouts. I mean that's very telling that guys are taking more aggressive approaches. That they're trying to drive the ball, not just serve it over somebody's head or anything like that. But yeah, I'd say those are probably the two main things. There are a few interesting numbers on here. I mean, I love how they threw in percentage of RBIs from sac flies is down by from 8%, 8.8% to 7.8. So they kind of threw that on there.
That's a very random stat to throw in. I don't think Matt Eddy, who handles the stats for us at Baseball America, could tell anyone what percentage of RBIs come from sacrifice flies in professional baseball. That struck me as very strange stat to include.
And sac bunts are down a bit, not a ton, but a bit. But yeah, I'd say the home runs being up is a big deal. I still kind of want to see what happens when we get to Omaha. I should look up what Creighton's been doing since they're playing some games at TDAP. But that's the real test. Is what. I mean, are there going to be some home runs hit in the College World Series?
That's really it, Jim. I think you're absolutely right. That's the big question is, the offense has changed during the year. Is it really going to change in Omaha? I mean, yesterday while we were listening to the game, I pulled out the voicemail I have from Mike Martin for my son because Mike Martin went to the mound and my son asked me, do you know Mike Martin? So I pulled out my voicemail from last August where Coach Martin called me to thank me for the column I wrote about how the College World Series had gotten boring because of the lack of the threat of the home run. And that's really going to be the question because last year in Omaha, you had outfielders playing like Little League outfield. Everybody comes in, and very rarely did you see an outfielder's back. I believe it was Josh Norris who got me to maybe turn my back in the BA workout the other day. So I forget who hit one over my head to right field, but it was a little surprising oppo power. I can't remember if that was Josh Norris or not. Do you remember who that was, Jim, who hit one over, maybe turn tail and run in right field? I don't remember who that was.
Was that Josh Leventhal might have done? There was somebody. I can't remember. I remember there was someone you were saying like, oh, he dropped the head on that one, but I can't remember.
No way Josh Leventhal has that kind of oppo power. There's no way. I think we both know that Josh Leventhal does not have that kind of oppo power.
I know he's got the back control. He's got the. You see him playing hoops. He's got the handles though. So he's got. He can probably move it around though.
He's the city kid. He's no Manny Burris. He's a DC kid. So we get the street game and he is not. Manny Burris is the only baseball player of any note to come out of DC in a long time, and that is not Josh Leventhal. He is not the heir to the Manny Burris throne.
I will say.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I will say for the record that Creighton has 3 home runs as a team. Yeah, they played 11 home games. Doesn't say how many home or road, but. I know they're probably not built for home runs anyway, but just throwing that out there.
That's good to throw out there, and that's a caveat. I definitely think just the threat. It doesn't even have to be home runs. Mm-hmm. Power can be the ability to drive the ball over the outfielder's head. That would make the quality of game go up in Omaha at TD Ameritrade Park. And to talk about the road to Omaha, Jim, let's wrap up with just talking about the projected field of 64. I know we talked about it a little bit the other day. You have South Carolina, among other teams we just talked about today, being a number 2 seed at the Coral Gables regional. And you said that you've gotten some feedback on one of the other parts of this that you and I discussed when we were, when you as editor-in-chief, I get to look at a lot of stuff. I get to look at whatever I want before it goes online, so it's one of the perks. But we discussed Missouri and Missouri State, whether or not you have both those teams in the same regional, and at a regional at Stillwater, with the dangerous Ball State with Zach Plesac in the 4 seed as the projected MAC champion. That would be a great regional, Jim. First of all, Oklahoma State, Missouri, Missouri State. I don't know if it would matter too much who's 2 or who's 3, but you had Missouri projected as a 2 and Missouri State as a 3. I kind of thought you could have flipped that if you wanted to, but it was an optimistic look for the Tigers. We talked yesterday about them on our video that's posted at baseballamerica.com, but let's talk a little bit about the Bears. I know you talked with Keith Gutton either last week or the week before.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
And they just beat Dallas Baptist last night, Jim. So Missouri State's a team on the rise and that has a chance to play its way up to a 2 seed. Is there any chance Missouri State could even usurp Dallas Baptist and be a 1 seed? If they win the Missouri Valley, could they be a 1 seed? They certainly have the ballpark to host.
Well, if they win this series, obviously they got off to a great start last night with beating DBU 5-4. I think that's true. Yeah, Matt Hall, who through last night's been doing a great job on Fridays for them. Now they got their kind of by default ace, John Harris, going tonight, who's he missed a week with an ankle thing, but he's been back. He threw well last week, so if they win that series, there's a real chance they could win the Valley. They already Missouri State, they already won a series against Indiana State a couple weeks ago, so they're off to a good start, and they've got I do wonder. They're non-conference. They did lose a series to Kansas State, which is not great. They beat Central Arkansas, who's a pretty decent team in their conference. They beat Wright State, who's another quality mid-major. But if they get past this hurdle, there's a real chance they can win that conference, and we'll see what see how the RPI shapes up. But they should be strong. Like we've been saying, with all these these teams, these northern teams that play a lot of road games, that boosts their RPI as long as you win a fair amount of them, and they'll certainly have that going for them. So they can win one more game this weekend. They certainly would be in that conversation.
And you like the fact that you played a big game like that against your biggest conference rival, and Tate Matheny comes through with 3 hits, and Eric Cheret, their catcher, still banged up. I guess Jimmy didn't play last night. What was the injury to him again? Do you remember?
Oh, not off the top of my head. So.
Yeah, I know that he's been banged up. That would have been a real marquee matchup last night, just coming into the year, of Cheret and Daniel Salters, 2 of the better catchers in the country. But Dallas Baptist still 23-4, still a very robust record, a very robust RPI.
Hey, I haven't seen where they are today, but they were number 1 when I did when I was making the projection.
Right, absolutely.
And they are still number 1 on Warren Nolan. So.
And I guess kind of the other team in there one team that I know I want to find out a little bit more about and research a little bit more is Bradley. Still has this crazy high RPI, and again, most of it's from playing on the road, but playing a lot of games against non-Division I competition. And I know you get 4 that don't count against your RPI, but they've already played 2 in Mount Vernon, Nazarene, and UMass Dartmouth. Scheduled to play 3 in his next 3 games. Robert Morris, Illinois College, McMurray. I'm going to guess they're going to cancel one of those games. They scheduled these because of maybe if they had to lose games earlier to weather. But it still seems like a tougher road for Bradley in that league, despite the high RPI, because they have to go to Dallas Baptist and to Missouri State. So
to Indiana State also.
That's right.
The number 3 team. Generally, it's the number 3 team there.
It's a little sleeper league. I think the Valley has a really good reputation. Still very strange to see the Valley without Creighton in it. It just doesn't make any sense. Talking to scouts this week about they don't know which teams are in what conference, and it still really messes up for scouts. It doesn't mess it up. They've all adjusted. They all know how to adjust what they do. But it makes it tough to see your teams that are in your area usually. It can really make it challenging to limit yourself to be more efficient in scheduling. So, Jim, I know you'll be out seeing the Seminoles and Wolfpack some. I'll be on the broadcast tomorrow on ESPN3, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll be a little bit rusty on TV. It'll be my first game of the year, so I hope people cut me some slack on this Google Hangout and cut me some tomorrow. So plenty of more college baseball coverage at baseballamerica.com throughout the weekend wrap-ups, the videos, and, of course, we'll be back Monday with the podcast. So for Jim Shonerd, I'm John Manuel. Thanks to Vince Lara for setting this up, and we'll see you in the next Baseball America Google Plus Hangout. Until then, so long, everybody.